Let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're unpacking a really fascinating piece of source material. It's a leadership devotion that actually merges ancient concepts of warrior discipline with some deep foundational spiritual truths. We're looking at what the speaker calls the protector identity. Now, picture a warrior standing completely firm against a massive storm. That's kind of the vibe here. By design, a protector is someone others genuinely count on to meet those basic expectations of safety and leadership. And the source material makes a big point to frame this not just as a temporary gig or some phase you go through in the military, but as a lifelong divine calling. But carrying that kind of weight, well, it requires immense preparation, which brings us perfectly to our very first major concept. To be truly ready, you need absolute focus. Imagine a warrior executing a single, flawless blade strike in the pouring rain. That level of quiet, consistent mastery represents Kaizen. It's a Japanese term the speaker brings up, and it simply means the law of 1% daily improvement. According to the transcript, whether you're trying to build up your physical fitness or your spiritual resilience, Kaizen is literally the ultimate foundation. It's this incredibly powerful idea that true mastery is forged through small, daily, and honestly almost unglamorous disciplines. I want you to compare this to the chaotic turbulence of those 30-day boot camp fads we see everywhere. The speaker argues that those fads are volatile, right? They require this constant state of hypermotivation, which, let's face it, usually just results in burnout. But contrast that chaos with the serene, permanent discipline of the Kaizen method. By just doing a little bit every single day, say 5 push-ups or a simple dry fire drill, you build an absolutely unbreakable habit. The beauty of it is that it's so simple, you can do it whether you're tired, whether it's pouring rain, or even when you're sick. This slow compounding of 1% daily improvement will drastically outperform those sporadic bursts of extreme effort every single time. Moving right along to Act I, Gin, and the technical pause. The reality of leadership is often incredibly chaotic. While a good leader might appear totally calm on the outside, there's usually a literal storm of unseen battles, strong feelings, and emotional frustration swirling all around them. The text highlights a very relatable human truth. Leaders are just humans. Whether you're in corporate business or church leadership, in the heat of the moment, it is so ridiculously easy to just react in the flesh. And that is exactly why cultivating what they call a tactical or technical pause is absolutely crucial. Imagine a warrior calming their spirit while a chaotic storm of emotional ink blot swirls around them. It's about finding that single shaft of light in the dark and making a conscious choice not to react impulsively. But here's the real question. How do you actually know if your response is the right one? How do you discern a divine directive from your own anxiety or pride or fear? Well, the speaker provides a really practical checklist to help calm the embers of your own anxiety. First, you test the spiritual fruit. Second, you monitor your internal peace gauge. The transcript heavily emphasizes that true direction from the Holy Spirit is always going to leave you with a lasting sense of peace and joy, even if the situation itself was super stressful or involved intense conflict. If you've lost your peace, your fuel gauge is totally empty, and your eyes might just be on the wrong thing entirely. And finally, the speaker stresses that all actions, no matter how firm or tough they have to be, absolutely must land in perfect love. Which brings us to the crucial point of Jinnah itself, righteousness. Rooted in Matthew 6:33, the speaker defines this as seeking God's right way of doing things. It's basically doing exactly what you're told to do by the Spirit. The transcript draws this really cool parallel to Mary at the wedding of Cana when she just looked at the disciples and said, "Do whatever he tells you." That kind of obedience, that strict moral integrity and alignment, is framed here as the ultimate catalyst for miracles. But knowing what is right isn't quite enough on its own, is it? So let's shift gears to Act 2, You, and the concept of outrunning fear. We usually think of courage as just gritting your teeth and toughing it out, right? But true courage is completely redefined by 1 John 4:18. Perfect love casts out fear. The speaker makes a really brilliant distinction here between reckless bravado and actual, true courage. Reckless bravado is doing something stupid, like laying down on a busy interstate just on a dare, all to look brave and stroke your own ego. But true courage, or yuzha, is rooted in something so much greater than yourself. It's rooted in perfect love, which forcefully casts out fear simply because you're acting on behalf of what is right. And this brings us to a prime case study from the text, David and Goliath. When David actually arrived at the battle line, he didn't shrink back at all. He had this intense, righteous indignation. He famously said, "Who is this uncircumcised Philistine?" He looked at Goliath, who was literally terrifying the entire seasoned Israeli army, and he just saw an insult to God. That deep conviction birthed a courageous fire that completely, 100% overrode any natural fear he might have been feeling. So, how does this build into a real methodology? Picture a breathtaking high-speed sprint directly into the shadow of a colossal giant. The speaker breaks down the anatomy of David's courage into 3 really decisive steps. Number 1, intelligent preparation. David totally rejected King Saul's heavy, unfamiliar armor. Instead, he relied on what God had already proven in his life through his Kaizen, the simple sling. Number 2, bold action. The transcript makes such a fascinating point right here. David didn't walk, he actually ran toward the giant. Why? Because walking slowly gives fear the time it needs to settle in. It literally makes the giant look bigger with every single step. Moving fast leaves absolutely no room for fear. And number 3, self-sacrifice. David risked everything, not for his own personal glory, but purely for what was right. Ultimately, the speaker argues that true courage isn't self-made at all. As God promises in Isaiah 41, "I will hold your right hand." Real courage comes from knowing you do not have to manufacture the strength yourself. You just have to step out in obedience, knowing exactly who is backing you up in the chaos. Which leads us into Act 3, the Frontline Guardians. Consider this concept of the connected body. The devotion we're analyzing today wasn't just written for people speaking on a brightly lit stage. It was heavily directed at a security and parking lot team, the people serving out on the outer perimeter. Picture samurai standing guard at the misty outer gates of a grand temple, right? Their spirits are glowing with the exact same fire as the altar inside. The speaker is addressing a very common frustration here. People serving outside often feel like they're missing out on all the spiritual service happening inside. But the transcript emphatically states that if you are where you're supposed to be, you miss absolutely nothing. The Holy Spirit is the ultimate teacher. He fills the parking lot and the patrol routes just as powerfully as he fills the main platform. The only requirement on your end is that you are actively listening and looking for him in your daily duties. And finally, our epilogue. Love never fails. The protector identity isn't something maintained by sheer willpower. It's built on the 1% daily discipline of Kaizen. It's guided by the righteous peace of Ji. It's fueled by the rapid, fearless action of You. And it's sustained by the deep knowledge that no matter where you serve on the perimeter, you are totally connected to the source. So, the foundations are laid, you've got the tools, you've got the discipline, and you know the calling. But here is the ultimate final challenge for you. When the moment actually comes, will you step out on what you hear? Will you utilize those 1% daily discipline skills? And most importantly, will you ensure that your courage always lands in perfect love? It's an incredibly powerful standard for both leadership and life. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive, and I will see you on the next explainer.